Hearing none, we'll move on to my reports. The Special Education Cooperative met today, and we kind of have an educational piece at the beginning of all of our meetings where the director updates us on a relevant topic, and today she talked about state testing adaptations for the special education students. Just wanted us to be advised that even though it's quite low incidence for those students that are so cognitively or physically disabled so that they have difficulty testing, we have, as approved by the state, an adaptation. Because it's testing time, and the MCAs being the most common one, and then there are ramifications for districts if we don't have all of our students test. So that was our point of interest today. And then additionally, we just worked on the usual personnel, financial approvals, and that type of thing. The Finance Committee met last month. We reviewed the preliminary budget and looked at the options for how to arrive at our desired financial status for the next year. So in the budget process, there are many rounds, many considerations, and that was just an initial meeting with the Finance Committee and Mark Maston and the superintendent to get a direction where we're going. Activities Committee didn't meet since the last time we had a report on it. And then Region 1 Board, we had a meeting last month that largely talked about one of the competitors in the student services technology field is going down like sack taters. Oh, no, they're just quit. They're quitting providing services.
Which company is
I
that?
didn't have to add a flourish. I cannot draw on a blank.
We'll find out.
Yeah, and so so we talked about how that might affect Region 1, which schools we're likely to integrate into our current service provision, and then that led to a discussion on staffing considerations. In addition to that, we have several staff retiring, and then we revised our budget, and we had election of officers, and we talked about the conference, which will be held next week, which is a big deal for Region 1. Great way to share information with the technology staff in all the school districts. So that is a summary of my reports. Any questions?
Do they say about how many schools they felt they were going to be affected by?
Yeah, there was a list of about 45 schools, and only about 7 substantial school districts. Most of them were charter schools, and they had a lot of financial trouble and
Ties.
Yeah, thanks.
Say that again?
Ties. It's a conglomerate of school districts in the Twin Cities, and there's
I did hear that.
a lot of mismanagement and funding issues, so now they've disbanded.
Yeah. So
But
we
they did a student information system. Ties actually had their own student information system, and so now evidently they won't have one. Okay.
Yeah, the Synergy product anyway
Sure.
is no longer going to be with them. So, all right. Thanks for helping me complete my report, Superintendent. And now we'll move to Melissa Hermes.
I did not go to the staff development meeting, but they have pretty much used all their money for this year, which is fantastic. But curriculum review, we met on January 15th, and we had some great reports from the social studies departments, math department, and family and consumer science department. In social studies, the elementary teachers talked about their new curriculum, their new textbooks that they love. And they said the readability of the text has gone up, and they also noted a good deal of integration of math, reading, writing, and technology into that new social studies curriculum. And then Nikki Weldy reported on a really amazing project that the fifth graders participated in, and this kind of coincided with Mr. Monkey's visit to Norway. So the students participated with students in Norway. They created their own exhibits. They came to the museum, curated their own exhibits, and then shared that with students in Norway, which was a pretty neat project, I thought. And then, let's see, they also reminded us social studies that there's some trips coming up, and there's some middle school students going to Washington DC in June, and then next June, Mrs. Roeder and Mr. Hansen are taking students on a trip to Europe. And this was kind of a nice reminder too, of what it takes to graduate, what are the credits you have to have that are social studies. So you have to have 3.5 credits to graduate, and you have to have a half credit in geography, that's freshman, 1 credit of United States history, 1 in world history, and then a half credit in economics or government. And then we've talked about this before, but this year's freshmen are going to be the first ones that have to take the naturalization or citizenship test. It's not, you have to take it, but it's not going to stop you from graduating. Yes. And so that's social studies. The math, in elementary, they have a new curriculum too. Well, it's really an updated version of the everyday math, and they talked quite a bit about that. That's a curriculum that was developed by the University of Chicago. And then facts, that was really an interesting report. And just a reminder what some of the content areas that facts, family, and consumer science covers: food prep, food science, nutrition, child and human development, early childhood education, career success, family, human services, fashion, apparel, textiles, personal finance. And the person that gave the report, Mrs. Anderson, said a couple of things that really, I thought, she made 2 statements that I thought were really important: that curriculum drives instruction in that department, and also that in the things that the students do, whether they're a 7th grader learning to cook or what have you, students can see that this is real life. They're getting real life skills, learning.
What a concept.
Right?
Any questions for Melissa on these?
Did they say how many middle school students were going to be going on that trip?
35, I believe.
Okay.
And there are 20 students so far going on the trip to Europe, but they still have time to sign up for that.
All right, very good. Now we'll hear reports from Dwayne Danielson.
Buildings and grounds have not met, but a lot of things still going on. Our custodial crew is continually working on stuff. I think probably 2 of the biggest things, just preparing for the pool and the summer work that will be taking place in the pool, as far as the painting and the different things there. And then a lot of preliminary stuff, I think, for the heat pump over at Adams has started already and is in the works for that. So that's probably the 2 biggest things there. And then again, a lot of just other things going on. We'll also be discussing a little later on tonight, I think, some possible maybe use of some solar panels and different things like that. So in the work session, so looking at that. And then for meet and confer, we met on January 29th. Big thing there was just let them know parking signs have been ordered and kind of just waiting for the weather to cooperate so some of those signs can get put up in the different locations where they're going. And the other thing, a couple other things, teachers in different departments would just, they kind of like to see the actual number of students signing up for classes. They just think that some of the classes, there's a little question about the equity in class size and different things like that. So that was just a question that was brought up. And then the big thing was just approving the calendar for the coming year. And that's on the agenda for later on. And just a couple things in there, maybe Superintendent Ness can address those when we get to them, but it has to do with one of the in-service days and how that'll be handled. And then the graduation date will be early next year, scheduled for May 24th, so that'll be another change too. So a couple things we can maybe talk about as we get that on the agenda here later on. And then final thing, the 544 group met last Thursday, and they're up to 496 members, so getting close to that target of 500. So hoping to get there soon. Just a reminder for our high school seniors, all the scholarship applications, to get those. They're in the counselor's office, so a lot of different applications, so make sure they're getting those filled out and get them turned in. And then already summertime coming close, so they're talking about the Legends Golf Tournament. That'll be coming up in July 13th this year. They've named three legends, and Gary Boldenau, Katie Weiss-Hanneman, and then one of our own 544 Foundation members, Tony Renz, was chosen. So those will be the 3 new legend members this year. So congratulations to those 3. So other than that, that's about all I have.
All right. Any questions for Blaine?
What's a legend member?
Jerry can
Well,
explain a little better.
the 544 Education Foundation does a golf tournament as a fundraiser, and they titled this group the Legends.
Okay.
So people who have been influential in the golf community in that course, and they're honored, as legends. And so it's a fundraising, but it's also a fun recognition for the golf course too. The golf course and the 544 Education Foundation partner together on this fundraiser, and they split the dollars.
And it's the biggest fundraiser for the 544 Foundation during the year. So.
They each earn about 5,000, I
Yep.
believe, each.
Yep.
Sounds
Cool. All right. Stephen Fergus.
Okay, so for the legislative liaison report, the biggest, I guess the thing that I found most significant was the new tax bill. At least the National School Board Association people are not super happy about it. Couple of the lowlights, I should say, with it are for municipal bonds for schools. From what the language is saying is that last year I think we were able to pre-refund one of our bonds to save the taxpayers 300 and some thousand, was it, Mark? Or do you ballpark
Something like that, yeah.
It was a lot of money. New tax bill says you can't do that anymore. And to me, that's a significant amount of money, not being able to call those bonds back, pay them, and then refinance them at a lower rate. Now, interest rates are going up, so it might not be a big deal, but in a falling interest rate environment, that could really hurt school districts with the opportunity to refinance and save a huge bundle of money. But nice thing about tax bills is they can be changed down the road. You just need different people making those decisions. The other thing that was significant was Section 529 plans. They're college saving plans that you get a deduction to put the money in, and if you use the money for a college, you get to take the money out, earnings and everything tax-free. Previously they were being used only for college, but now they've expanded that to prep school, secondary school, for private school and things like that, up to $10,000, I think it's per year. They're concerned, National School Board Association is concerned because it could encourage parents to pull their kids out of public school, therefore lowering the funding rates of schools, because $10,000 is pretty close to a year's worth of tuition for a private school, high school. I know it is over at Hillcrest. So those are just a couple of the things that they're concerned. The other thing is that they're concerned that there's now a limit on deductibility of state taxes for taxpayers. So smart taxpayers will then find ways to not pay state taxes, and a lot of those state taxes come back to schools. So, like I said, they're not super happy with the tax bill, but I guess we just have to kind of roll with it. Let's see here. What was the other? If I can read my writing. One thing was kind of exciting is that there's a task force assigned to make a recommendation to Governor Dayton about expanding the broadband capabilities of our state, particularly in schools, rural schools that don't generally get a lot of attention when it comes to these kind of things. And so it's a giant grant program. It's like $71 million that telecom companies could apply to. And a little research showed me that actually Outertel Telecom got a $174,000 grant last year to help expand broadband that would directly affect our schools here. So some good things happening. And then also the Every Student Succeeds Act was finally approved. I will not go into detail, but there's a ton of information on the website. It's education.state.mn.us for some of the changes from No Child Left Behind? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then to Every Student Succeeds Act. So some stuff going on, and that's about all I got.
Mark, were we beneficiaries of the telecom money that went to Ottertail?
Not yet. I think we're going to just see any kind of funds on there come through the region through our Northwest Links.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Do you have any reason why they did that for the municipal, why you can't refinance them at a lower rate? Why are they, I don't quite see the tax benefit to the federal government.
Well, the interest rates are higher, so therefore they're gonna earn more money that way. I don't know, but they ixnayed it, so.
Basically, tax exempt bonds are a subsidy, and the federal government, when it wants revenue, looks at tax exempt bonds as being a way to avoid paying your taxes. So that reduces their revenue. They would rather see higher interest rates, which generate more interest, which generate more income for the federal government. So
Okay,
it's, yeah.
okay.
I don't think it's something that's going to pass long term. I think most people will suddenly go, what the heck is going on? So,
Interesting.
So we were fortunate we got it done when we did.
yeah, because why pay more tax so that somebody else?
It's just like refinancing your house. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
refinance to a lower rate so that you have less interest paid.
Yep.
And now they're saying that we can't do that with our loans, for now, until somebody else takes over. probably.
Yeah, cooler heads will prevail.
Yeah.
All right. And then we'll move on to superintendent Ness for.
Yes, excuse me, just two items. Last week, excuse me, the flu bug has gotten to school too. When we get to a certain level, and I can't recall exactly the level, our school nurse has to report to the Minnesota Department of Health. We have 71 students in this building that were out with the flu bug. We also had 9 out of 23 in one section of kindergarten that was gone because of the flu. What do? We remind people to wash their hands, wash their hands, wash their hands. We also, especially in a kindergarten classroom like that, we do more strenuous cleaning, if you will, and really make sure everything's disinfected so we're not spreading germs. But so those are so the illness. I didn't get a chance to talk to Jen Cohors today, but I think this cold weather, it's got to be good for something. I would hope the flu bug is snapping because of cold weather at least, so we'll see. They do say that it's as bad as it's been in many, many years, and it could extend up for another 10 weeks, so we're not out of it yet. The other item is the long-term facility committee. We'll be meeting again tonight. Last time, I thought we had a very fruitful meeting. We were out at the Heritage Building. Lots of discussion, and certainly the focus is going towards early childhood, staying at the Heritage Building. We'll be talking a lot tonight about plans that Scott DeMartelaire and R.A. Morton has developed and some costs, so we'll get an update there, and I believe a lot of the work of the long-term facility committee is complete to a point right now, but then there'll be more work later on when we actually get to finishes and different things, so we'll see how the group feels about meeting and whether they're ready to make a recommendation, which I think we're very close to do that, so that's good.
Okay. Any questions for the superintendent? All right, then we'll move on to our general consent items, and this agenda has within it several things to consider for approval. The minutes from our January 22nd school board meeting, and then the bills and treasurer's report. Mark, would you, is someone assigned to?
Yeah, Missy was there along with Natalie,
Okay,
but
perhaps from
we
the look of Missy's
did
face.
go through bills, and we didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Revenue or cash balance is up slightly to about 5.2 million, and we did have a bond payment here on the stadium of about 280,000, and we also received about 125,000 on donations for that, so we're well ahead of that schedule. So.
Okay, great.
And I don't think there was any reservation about not paying any of the bills.
No.
I would recommend we, unless,
Anything
Missy, you
that
have
don't-
anything else?
No, that's correct.
All right.
We're good to go.
All right, thank you, both. And then we have a lot of personnel.
We do, and we really appreciate our staff who is retiring, letting us know at this time, because now we'll be able to advertise and interview and have the largest pool. So hiring people in March is a lot better than hiring people in July or August, so our talent pool will be large. So here we go. Jill Damrow is an first grade teacher. Sue Hahnemann is Title I teacher, and both of those are at Adams. Joyce Monk is a physical education teacher here at Kennedy. Lori Strom is a orchestra teacher, music teacher, who's between Cleveland and this building. And Joni Wasberg is the music teacher at Cleveland. We also have support staff retirement Miles Anderson, who is working in the mechanical department. So congratulations to all those retirements, and we have resolutions later in the agenda that'll address those. We also have support staff resignations, Sarah Cook, Katie Dressel, Vanessa Burlingame, Tracy Buell, Zach Paulson. So we thank them for their service. And new hires. With the resignations, we have new hires. Leah Tisdall and Connie Cedarberg and Tori Hoglo is being hired, and I might as well finish up here. There's two items of notice to negotiate. The Minnesota School Employees Association, which is the union for the custodial secretarial, and then the Fergus Falls Para Educator Association. So recommend approval of all these items.
Great. All right, is there a motion to approve the general consent items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on any of the items? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that approval is granted. And now for old business. We mentioned this last meeting, that's what makes it old business. But I'm looking for a motion to approve the Fergus Falls Public Schools Certified Seniority List for the fiscal year 2018. Will someone make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, as the notes indicate, there were no changes made from the tentative list. It came back because we had to allow time for staff to look at it, so. Any other discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that's approved. And we'll entertain a motion, then talk a little bit more about the 2018-19 calendar for the Fergus Falls Public Schools. Would someone make a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Meet and confer, agreed upon it?
Yes, this is the recommendation, so I don't know if you have a copy right in front of you. I think you might. Well, anyway, the biggest changes, let's just do changes. It's really, for the most part, when you start school after Labor Day and you finish school around Memorial Day, there's not a whole lot you can do with the calendar. It did, because Christmas vacation, holiday vacation is so short this year, we were able to move up the graduation to May 24th. What's nice about this calendar is from September 4th through the end of the year, the calendar is set. There's no dates that'll change inside that. So if we have a snow day, it will be made up at the end of the year versus Martin Luther King Jr. holiday or President's Day or whatever day you might choose. So parents can count on and staff can count on these are the days, but we might bring kids back depending on the number of snow days that we have. Probably the biggest difference for staff is we do have the 4 days prior to getting ready for school. We're also doing something a little bit different. It's called a pilot day. One thing that we always have is staff that are always concerned about getting their room ready for open house.
Right.
So what staff will be able to do is that they will document with either a sub-school personnel, a principal, a secretary, that they've been in, they'll log their hours, working time, or they could go to the Google Summit, they could go to trainings, or they could work in their rooms to prepare it, and they'll document their 5th staff development day in that manner. Lots of schools are doing that, find it very successful, so we thought we'd give this a try. The other date is November 2nd. instead of having a full day off at the end of the quarter, we have an early out and then teacher work time to finish grades up on that day. So, you know, other than that, it's a little bit different, but not too far out of the norm for the calendar. So recommend, like I said, the Meet Confer is recommending this for approval to the school board.
All right. Any other questions or discussion from the board? All right, all in favor of approving the calendar as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that's approved. Is there a motion to call for 403B vendor bids? Would someone make that motion?
I need to recuse.
Okay.
So moved.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
All right, and this was a request from the teachers' union when we were negotiating, and business manager Masson agreed to do that, and so
Sure.
we called for bids.
It's actually a call for requests for proposals,
Okay.
basically, but I use bids all the time too. But just so you're aware, last time we did bid for 403B vendors, was back in the 08-09 school year. And so it's been quite a long time. We were approached by the teacher union this last fall to review that process and go out for bid again. It is their belief that maybe now, after all these years, it's time to see if a better products can be found and so forth at less cost. So we're in the process of doing that. We contracted with a company called National Insurance Services. They did the bidding for us back in the 08-09 school year. They also continually to do our bidding for life insurance and LTD insurance. They don't sell the product, they just assist school districts and other governmental agencies with the bidding process and so forth. So, let's see, the bids would be due about March 20th. And when, after that point in time, a committee of employees will go through those proposals and review them and make a recommendation that would then come to the board here on April 6th.
And there's a maximum amount of vendors that...
We are currently at 5 vendors. The committee has decided they want to go down to 3 if possible, and maybe with an alternate to go to 1. So it could be, it might be emotional for some people, but at the same time, it's what the group wants. They want better rates for less cost.
So the existing vendors, if they're not chosen again, they'd have to move their accounts?
Their money would stay where they're at. Any new monies would go into the new. We will work with the new vendor to see if they can kind of consolidate too. That's always a feature that some people will want to have all their eggs in one basket, so to speak, and we'll do what we can to allow that.
What's our cost to have that firm help us do this?
Very minimal. It'll be about $10,000, but for the amount of work that they got to do and so forth,
Okay.
well worth it.
All right, any other questions? All right, we got a motion and a second and 1 recusal. Recusal. All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. Bids will be called for. And then, item number 3, would someone make that motion?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion's to call for roofing bids, a rebid for Kennedy Secondary School. We rejected those bids on the 8th of January, so be good to call for them again.
Yes. And what we're doing here this time is I'm working with R.A. Morton, who construction managers who worked on this building and did a lot of roofing for us at that point in time. They've sent out the bids here this week, and they're due also on March 20th. And we hope to have a good bid then that works in our favor.
Great.
And that would be to start on, that would be for this summer then?
That is
Start-
correct.
okay.
That is correct.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that's approved. Okay, so, next motion, results, acceptance of the food bid, effective March 1st, 2018 through the end of the school year, so. Would someone make the motion to accept our food bid?
I move we accept the food bid.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and tell us a little bit more about this, Mark.
Sure. If you remember, we are bidding the foods 3 times in a school year. That is so that we get a firm price over that 3-month period versus having some kind of escalator clause or whatever that's required if you do it for an entire year. We sent out bids for the first third of the school year, and U.S. Foods was the winning bidder at that point in time, but they were also the only bidder. Then in the fall, we bid for the middle 3 months, and we received, I believe it was 3 bidders, and U.S. Foods was the low bidder at that point in time. So this is the third and final segment for the final 3 months of the school year. We sent it out to 5 total vendors. Only U.S. Foods is the only one that responded. So that's a little disconcerting, but at the same time, I feel comfortable knowing that their pricing really hasn't changed much from the previous 2 times we bid. So with that, I would recommend that we would accept their bid.
All right.
Looked like this one was a little more savings to us too than the quarter before.
Yeah.
Is it based on the number of school days that they're bidding to, or?
No, it's a unit price, but
Okay.
they may have changed like some meats and stuff like that. That's typically
Okay.
the largest thing that swings, and they gotta cover their cost up or down accordingly.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of accepting the food bid, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. Apparently Mark Maston was busy. I'm looking at another motion to call for bids. Would someone make a motion to call for wireless network bids?
So moved.
All right. Blaine for the motion, Stephen for the second? Yep. All right, thanks. Any discussion, information on this?
Sure. Our wireless network here, especially at the Kennedy Secondary School, is growing rapidly, and it's growing faster than what we dreamed of. When we first built this building in 2000, or were planning for this building in 2007, we thought we had the cat's meow in terms of wireless. Little did we know that halfway through construction, the iPad would hit, and all the other mobile devices would hit, and we had this lovely 2-lane highway that was fantastic, and we needed a 8-lane freeway. So we've been slowly building up over the past few years, but now that we're at a point in time where we even have to go to a much larger freeway with transit. So we are planning on replacing approximately, or adding approximately 140 units to this building and to our Roosevelt building. Any of the older equipment would then filter down through the elementaries where there's less load, but much newer equipment than what they have. And so we have to call for bids because the amount will exceed $50,000. Also, by bidding, we can then throw this out for E-rate funding, which could pay up as much as 60% of the cost. So,
Mark, talk a little bit about the bandwidth, the amount of internet capability here is strong. It's the access points.
it's the access
To connect a
point.
device.
When we first designed, like an access point is like right there, that white box. We were kind of planning for about 30 units in a classroom. Well, it didn't take long before you had 30 units in a classroom, plus every kid has a smartphone, plus the teacher has multiple devices, and 30 just wasn't cutting it. So now we're planning more in the neighborhood of 100 units in each classroom. And so there may be additional wiring, because the technology now says you have to feed more to that access point in order to get more out of it. And then that unit itself just has the ability to handle more units at one time.
When it comes time to do that, Mark, are we gonna look at trying to do a lot of it in the summer months, or?
Definitely, all of this would be done in the summer.
Okay.
We had to buy 17 units here this month so that we can be ready in time for testing that happens in March.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of the testing on Chromebooks now, so.
And that's
Adam's building is probably the hot point right now, that we had some interruptions in our winter testing, so we want to be ready for the tests that count.
Well, and that's been kind of our, part of our problem is that we're replacing labs of computers that are plugged into the wall and so forth for a network with mobile devices. And that's completely different technology, of course. And so every time we buy a Chromebook cart, I kind of cringe, because I know we have to rebuild the infrastructure in order to handle it. It's not just a simple, well, it's $9,000 to buy 30 units. It's a lot more than that to get the highway to support it too. So, and I don't see an end to this. I can see us in 3 years needing to double it again at least.
So is there an access point in each classroom?
Yes.
Yeah.
In some cases, we're going to be moving to 2 in a classroom.
That makes sense if you got 30 Chromebooks and 30 smartphones and teacher stuff. Makes sense.
All right. Any other questions or discussion on wireless bids? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that concludes that. And the balance of our meeting this evening will be several resolutions on retirements. So, Blaine, you want to go ahead?
Just a quick question before I do it. Can we read all these at once and then do one resolution for all of them, or do separate for each one? Okay.
We all have different start dates
Okay.
and
Just-
years of service.
just asking.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one, resolution of retirement on Jill Damerau. Whereas Jill Damerau began her employment with the Fergus Falls Public Schools in August 1999, and whereas Jill has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 19 years, and whereas Jill has done an excellent job as an elementary teacher in the district, and now therefore be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School District Board to thank Jill Damerau for her 19 years of dedicated service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools. So I will offer the resolution and move for its adoption.
I'll second. Any discussion? Clerk, will you do roll, please?
Melanie Cole?
Yes?
Blaine Danielson, yes. Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Steve Vigasa?
Yes.
Melissa Hermes?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Missy?
Okay. Whereas Sue Hahnemann began her employment with the Fergus Falls Public Schools in September 1975, and whereas Sue has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 43 years, and whereas Sue has done an excellent job as an elementary teacher in the district, now therefore be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Sue Hahnemann for her 43 years of dedicated service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools. I offer that resolution and move for its adoption.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk?
Missy Hermes?
Yes.
Steve Vigasa?
Yes.
Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Blaine Danielson, yes. Melanie Cole?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right.
Resolution on retirement of Joyce Monk, whereas Joyce Monk began her employment with the Fergus Falls Public Schools in August 1981, and whereas Joyce has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 37 years, and whereas Joyce has done an excellent job as a physical education teacher in the district, and now therefore be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Joyce Monk for her 37 years of dedicated service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools. I offer that resolution, move for its adoption.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk?
Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Steve Vigasa?
Yes.
Missy Hermes?
Yes.
Blaine Danielson, yes. Melanie Cole?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right.
Resolution on the retirement of Lori Strum. Whereas Lori Strum was employed with the Fergus Falls Public Schools from 1979 to 1983, again from 87 to 89, and then returned back in August of 1998, and whereas Lori has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 26 years. And whereas Lori has done an excellent job as a music teacher in the district, and now therefore be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Lori Strum for her 26 years of dedicated service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools. I offer that resolution and move for its adoption.
All right, is there a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? Clerk?
Steve Biggessa?
Yes.
Missy Hermes?
Yes.
Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Blaine Danielson? Yes. Melanie Cole?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thank you.
Resolution on retirement of Joni Wasberg. Whereas Joni Wasberg began her employment with the Fergus Falls Public Schools in August 1977, and whereas Joni has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 41 years, and whereas Joni has done an excellent job as a music teacher in the district, and now therefore be resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Joni Wasberg for her 41 years of dedicated service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools. I will offer the resolution and move for its adoption.
All right, is there a second?
Second. Go ahead, Steve.
I second that.
All right. Any discussion? Clerk?
Melanie Cole?
Yes?
Blaine Danielson, yes. Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Steve Biggessa?
Yes.
Missy Hermes?
Yes.
The resolution passes.
All right, thank you. Resolution on the retirement of Miles Anderson. Whereas Miles Anderson began his employment with Fergus Falls Public Schools in May 1999, and whereas Miles has been a valued employee with Fergus Falls Public Schools for the past 19 years, and whereas Miles has done an excellent job as a custodian in the district, and now therefore be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Miles Anderson for his 19 years of dedicated service to Fergus Falls Public Schools. I'll offer that resolution and move for its adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Take Missy.
Missy on that. All right, any discussion there? Clerk?
Melanie Cole?
Yes?
Blaine Danielson, yes. Matt Lemke?
Yes.
Steve Biggessa?
Yes.
Missy Hermes?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right, thank you, everybody. Well, the board will stick around after the meeting tonight for our work session to cover many topics, and then to be capped off with long-term facilities committee planning session. So we'll do that and meet again here on Monday, February 26th at 5:15 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on adjourning? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And we are adjourned.